Hello all, my name is Krish Naik and welcome to my YouTube channel. So guys, today in this particular video, I am going to discuss about a very important topic which is called as deep agents. If you see most of the companies like ChatGPT, if I talk about Claude Code, if I talk about Manus AI, they have their own deep research agent, and this entire deep research agent are nothing but they are called as deep agents. Now, how it is different from a normal agent, normal AI agent that we used to create? If you see the flow of the development, specifically in the field of generative AI, agentic AI, initially we used only LLM models to create generative AI applications. Then we moved towards creating independent agents which were able to perform some tasks. Then we saw different types of agents. Then we also probably saw, how to probably collaborate between agents like multi AI agents and all. And those kind of applications we have focused, and all these kind of videos have already been uploaded in my YouTube channel. But now it's time that we move towards deep agents. So in this video, what we are going to do is that we're going to understand how deep agents are. I will also show you some code, how you can actually create your own deep agents. But in the upcoming videos, we'll talk more about it with respect to practical implementation. So now quickly, let me share my screen. So here it is. So initially, if I talk about other agents that we used to use, right? Now, what are agents? First of all, it's a very simple thing. Let's say that I have an LLM. Okay. This LLM, let's consider that I give an input to this LLM. Now, this input to the LLM, right? The LLM basically acts like a brain. So this will basically act like a brain. So the LLM will take a decision whether it needs to generate the output or whether it needs to communicate with some kind of tools, right? Now, these tools can be any tools. It can be an external third-party tools. Let's say that if the LLM is not able to generate the output, let's say if I ask a query, hey, what is the current temperature of Bangalore or Paris, right? So LLM obviously do not have any kind of live data, right? So the LLM is usually connected with tools. Now, these tools can be, a SERP API, it can be a Tably API, it can be different kind of API which gives some kind of weather information. Now, after the LLM is making a request to the tool, then the tool basically gives the output saying that, hey, the temperature for Paris is so and that specific output is basically generated. Now, this is also an agent. This is a basic agent, right? I can call this as an agent. And this specific agent, we say it is called as a shallow agent. Now we'll try to understand what exactly is shallow agent. Why we are saying it as shallow agent? Because the input query that we are giving, the LLM is taking an action, it is calling the tool and it is giving the output. So here, a specific flow, they are just following, right? And finally generating the output. Here, we are not again communicating back to the LLM, or here you can see in this particular process, no planning is happening. Just a request is coming, and based on this particular request, the request is basically going to the tools, and that tools are actually giving us the output, right? So here you can see that there is a very simple loop, right? It is a very simple loop, and this is the most common functionalities we may have implemented in our generative AI solutions or AI agent solutions, right? Now here, there is also one more disadvantage. See, based on the input query, there is only one logic getting applied where a LLM is taking the action, whether it needs to call the tool or directly it should generate the output. So here, no explicit planning is there, right? Like a query has come, LLM is taking the decision and finally generating the output, right? And this kind of use case, like whenever we use this particular use case, we don't use it for a very complex task. Let's say that if I give an input query, hey, try to probably find or try to provide me the recent AI news that is happening today and how it is probably related to economics, how it is probably related to, what are the best development that are basically happening in the field of physics. If I ask this kind of complex query, then that query needs to be decomposed, right? It needs to be decomposed into sub complex queries, right? And then it should be probably solved. And based on this particular flow, the complex queries cannot be handled, right? Complex queries cannot be handled. It cannot. You can basically see that it cannot be handled. It is very simple. You may be thinking it is simple, but it is not. Okay. And even whenever we are following this simple loop, right, there is a very limited context retention. Limited context retention. right? In order for the agents to work properly, right? Usually what happens is that you need to have good amount of context. Now in this particular scenario, just one flow, output is generated, the context is not there, right? So these are the simple problems that you can see in this particular agent. So that is the reason we say this as shallow agents, right? Because of it is just having a simple loop. You can see that no explicit planning, complex queries cannot be handled, because for complex queries, you need to divide that queries into subqueries. We need to assign sub-agents to solve that particular queries and all, right? Now, you may be thinking, Krish, okay, fine. If this is a kind of agent that you have created, we have also heard about different agents. One of the most common agent that we know is something called as React, right? React agent. Now, inside this React agent, what happens is that, let's say that you have a LLM. So this is the LLM. This LLM is actually connected to many tools. Okay. LLM is basically connected to many tools. So here you can have Wikipedia tool, here you can have search API tool, Tabuli tool, different kind of tools can be connected over here, right? And this LLM is basically connected to the tool. And whenever an input query comes, okay, so this is the LLM. The LLM will be assigned with some kind of system prompt. Now, based on an input query, the LLM will make a decision which tool to call, right? After the output is generated by the tool, then the context will be sent back to the LLM. Okay. So what happens in this kind of agent is that the term react, okay, react. See over here, act is also there, and right? You can act any number of time based on the observation, based on the context that you're getting from the tools, right? So in this particular scenario, this kind of conversation, this kind of loop can happen any number of times. And once a complex query is solved, then you will be able to see the final output. So let's say that if I go ahead and ask a query, what is 2 plus 2? And then multiply by 5. And then multiply by 5. So in this particular scenario, first of all, this query will be answered, and then this query will be answered. Then both the context will be assumed to generate the final output. Now in this particular scenario, we say it as a React agent. So here, this is also an independent agent. And here, loop is also happening, right? And loop will be happening based on the output that is generated from the tool. See, output, once it is generated, the context is given, then the LLM will make a decision whether again we need to use any other tools or not. So there can be n number of tools over here, right? Now in this scenario also, right, we also say this as shallow agent. See, this is the best improvement of the above agent. Based on the above agent, yes, this agent is better. But we still cannot say that, hey, this is a very smart agent altogether, right? The reason is very simple. Here also you'll be able to see that what is mainly happening. This LLM plus tool is basically happening, right? Nothing more than that, right? This is also a loop that is basically happening over here. But other than that, nothing is happening, right? No planning, no structured plan, no deep reasoning, no state management, nothing, no persistent memory. It's just like giving a request, tools is being used, and this continuous loop is basically happening. Now, in the case of deep agent, now deep agent works completely different, right? Now we are going to see the deep agent, and we don't say this as a shallow agent because this is completely different. Now we'll try to understand how does deep agent work. Now, some of the example of deep agent, we can talk about deep researchers, deep research agent in ChatGPT, Cloud, and I hope everybody has also heard about Manus AI, right? And we are also coming up with a product which is called as Zenodox, and there also we are developing this deep agent, okay? And we'll soon announce this particular product. A lot of development is basically happening. Now, in the case of deep agent, how it is different from the shallow agents that are there, right? So here the architecture will be completely different. So here, let's say that I have a deep agent, okay? This deep agent is basically having 4 important properties, okay? One, this, second, this, third is this, fourth is this, okay? And this 4 important properties actually talks about the characteristics of the deep agent, okay? So the first important property is something called as, it has a planning tool, okay? So whenever a query comes, it is not directly going to hit the, it is not directly going to hit the any kind of a tool or give you the direct output. First, there will be some kind of planning tool. Okay. And then the second will be something called as subagents property. Third is something called as system prompt. And the fourth is basically called as file system. Now we need to understand this. What are these four important properties or core components, we can basically say. These are the four core components of a deep agents. Okay. Now, in order to make you understand, I will take an example of Claude Code. Okay. So if you know how Claude Code is basically used, this is actually a very good, amazing, deep research agent. And if I show you, right, with respect to the Claude Code, right, first of all, in order to develop this deep agent, there will be definitely a system prompt. So one of the system prompt that I really want to show you is over here. See, system, you are Claude Code, Anthropic official CLI for code. You are an interactive CLI tool that helps user with software engineering tasks. Use the instruction below and tools available to assist the user. Assist with defensive security task only. Refuse to create, modify, improve or code that may be used maliciously. See, this is the entire prompt, right? System prompt that is specifically used in Claude Code, right? And this isn't amazing. See, it is basically visible to everyone. And people definitely use Claude Code for most of the tasks. Initially, we thought that they are just specifically using for coding tasks, because in this Claude Code, you have planning functionalities, you have decomposing functionalities and all, right? So I will go back again over here, right? So whenever we talk about what is this planning tool, so whenever a query comes, right, the first important module, that is nothing but planning tool. Now, planning tool is nothing but some kind of planning will happen over here. I'll give you 1,000 feet overview so that everybody can understand. Some kind of planning will happen. Usually in Claude Code, the planning is basically a kind of to-do list. Okay. So let's say I give a task. Saying that, hey, I want to book a holidays plan to Paris in the budget of let's say 100k rupees. Okay. And I want it for 3 nights, 4 days. Okay. So this is the entire query that I've actually given. Now what will happen is that there will, as soon as I give this query to my deep agents, the first thing is that the planning will happen. Planning basically means we are just going to go ahead and do a to-do list. Like how we are going to cover this or how this entire plan can be made. So first of all, let's say that the first day is basically to travel to Paris, stay in this particular hotel, the price is so and so. Second day, breakfast have over here, go and visit Eiffel Tower. The third day will be go and visit some other place, see something, and then fourth day come back to India, go to flight, and this is what is the cost, everyday cost. So this is a to-do list, and we will basically have what to book, what not to book, each and everything, right? Then after this to-do list is given, we go to the second important component that is called as subagents. Now what is subagents? Because this to-do list needs to be executed by someone, right? So what we'll do here, we will create subagents. So this will be my subagent 1, which will be making sure to execute this first to-do list. Then again, you'll be having the subagent 2, then subagent 3, then subagent 4, right? So based on this particular to-do list, we definitely want so many agents, right? And based on this particular agents, these agents will be responsible in solving this specific task. Okay. Now to solve this particular task, we also require system prompt, like how my agent should basically behave. This system prompt I already showed you with respect to the Claude Code, right? So here you can see clearly how this system prompt looks like, right? So you'll have some tone, coding style, anything, whatever things you really want to probably go ahead and put it, right? Then comes the file system. Now file system is very important. This file system is basically a place, a persistent memory. You can basically say this like a persistent memory, which will be accessible to all the subagents, right? Which will be accessible to all the subagents. And now these subagents can probably do any kind of task, save it in this persistent memory, which will be in the form of a file system. It can be a specific file, it can be a shared memory, it can be something, right? And all these specific agents can basically communicate with each other. So here you can see that it's mostly a kind of planning, creating subagents for solving tasks, having a system prompt, and using a file system, which is a kind of a persistent memory between all these particular subagents. And this is how a deep agent will be able to carry out any other task and generate the output. Now, one specific example that I'll give you. Let's say that I say that, hey, I will give you a topic on something. Okay. Let's say I will give you a blog topic. You do the research and probably tell me how this blog needs to be generated in the form of output. So, what my deep research agent will do, let's say, first of all, it will see how many, first of all, it will make a to do list, right? Now, in this to do list, it knows what task will be there. So, let's say the first task is nothing but research of the blog. The second task is do more research, let's say more research from research papers or from some other outsourcing material, something like that. Third is basically to write the blog. The fourth can be copyright check. Okay. Now for doing the research, obviously we will going to create a sub agent. Now this sub agent should definitely have the access to the internet. Okay. Definitely to the internet. Then more research. Let's say this sub agent basically has the access to archive. Okay. It is a research paper, let's say. Then this sub agent will be an expertise in writing the blogs. And fourth will be probably to check the copyright from the internet. And then all the tasks will be parallelly done, right? So I hope you got an idea about how a deep agent basically works. So guys, I hope you have got a basic understanding about how deep agents actually work. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to go ahead and implement a basic deep agent. And this deep agent will have some more functionalities with respect to tools. But before we start this, I will try to show you from the start, wherein we take a empty project workspace, then we create a virtual environment. Then after that, we go ahead and install all the libraries. And then finally, we go ahead and implement a basic deep agent. Okay. So here is my empty folder that is there. So I've created something called as deep agent course folders. And from this, I'm going to go ahead and open my Google anti-gravity. So here is what I've actually opened my Google anti-gravity ID. You can use any kind of IDs. It is based on your requirement. Okay. And the first thing is that I will just go ahead and open my terminal. Inside my terminal, I'll go ahead and open my command prompt. So the first thing is that I need to initialize this particular repository. So for that, I'll be using UV package manager. So for that, what I'm actually going to do, I'll just go ahead and write UV init. So once we write UV init, you can see that our project workspace has been initialized. Okay. Then the next step will be that we'll go ahead and create our virtual environment. So for that, you just need to go ahead and write UV, the virtual environment name. Here I have actually used VENV. Now here you can see that once I did this, my virtual environment has got created. So here you can see that your virtual environment has got created. Now, in order to install the packages in this particular virtual environment, first of all, you need to activate this virtual environment. So I've activated it over here. I'll clear the screen. Okay. Once we have activated, we are in the same virtual environment. So what I will do is that along with this, I will go ahead and write my requirement.txt file. Okay. And I will go ahead and write all the packages that I require in order to create a basic deep agent. Okay. So first package that I will be requiring, or library I'll be requiring, is nothing but deep agents. Okay. Now this deep agent is a kind of a standalone library for building agents that can tackle complex multi-step tasks. This entire deep agent is built on LangGraph. Okay. It is built on LangGraph, and it is basically inspired from Claude Code, Manus, deep research that is available in OpenAI, all those kind of features. So this deep agents, it is completely built on LangGraph. And LangGraph, that it is specifically used for creating multi-complex workflows, right? Multi-AI agents complex workflow. It has all the properties like stateful. It has some amazing data structures, which is called as state, which can remember all the information with respect to the with respect to the workflows that we have, right? It will be able to share the informations also. So we'll be using deep agents for this. Along with this, I will also be going and installing Langchain. I'll be installing Langchain OpenAI. Since I may use Langchain OpenAI, then I also want Grok. So all these particular libraries will go ahead and install. Along with this, I will also go ahead and install IPyKernel. Now, quickly, let's go ahead. And in order to install all these libraries, I'll write uv add -r requirement.txt. IPyKernel is just for attaching kernel to your Jupyter notebook. So that is the reason we are installing this. So here you can see that apart from this warning, I think the installation will happen perfectly. So all the installation has been done by default. When we are doing deep agents, I think LangGraph will also get installed. So here you can see LangGraph is also getting installed. Perfect. So let me clear my screen. This is done. Now, the next thing is that I will just go ahead and create a folder. Let's say this folder name is deep agents demo. Okay. And the first folder is like a basic deep agent .ipynb. Perfect. Now, the first step, we will go ahead and select our kernel. So we have selected our kernel. So I will put some definition over here so that you can refer it whenever you want. Okay. It is up to you. Whenever you want, you can refer it. So here you can see deep agents overview, build agents that can plan, use sub-agents, leverage file systems for complex tasks. You know, I'll show you all these examples as we go ahead. Okay. And, there are some points that I can also provide you over here with respect to this particular theory. Okay. When to use deep agents. This is just for your definition, even though I've explained each and everything. Okay. And here I will just put this information. I know I had to put it earlier, but it's okay. So here you can see when to use deep agents. Use deep agents when you need agents that can handle complex multi-step tasks that require planning, decomposition, manage large amounts of context through file system tools. Delegate works to specialize sub-agents for context isolation, persist memory across conversation and thread. Since this is already made with the help of LangGraph only, so I think all these things will be available internally. Okay. Now, let's start with the first code. Okay. Now, I will also be installing one more library, which is called as Stavely Python. Okay. And this will be an important library. I'll tell you just in a while because I'm going to use Stavely. If you have seen in the Langchain module, right, I've shown you how to use Stavely as in the form of a tool with respect to any with integrated with any kind of agents itself, right? So I'll write uv add -r requirement.txt. Okay, once this is done, this is perfect, right? Now, along with this, I'm also going to use some of the virtual environment variables that I really want, right? I'm planning to use some kind of keys, so that keys we will try to use it. So right now I will just go ahead and copy these keys that I require. Okay, I'll create a virtual environment .env file. Okay, and I will use some keys like OpenAI key, Grok API key, Google API key, Stavely API key. So Stavely API key is basically for the internet search. I'm going to specifically use this. OpenAI API key, Grok API key, and Google API key for those specific models. Okay. Now, once this is done, let's start our basic. We'll just go ahead and start with a simple deep agent. Okay. So here I'll just go ahead and write a basic deep agent. Okay. Now the first step is that I will go ahead and import OS. Then from .env. Okay, I have to also go ahead and install this one. Python.env. Okay. We're going to use this so that we can load the environment variables. uv add -r requirement.txt. Okay. So Python.env is done. Good enough. So from here, we are going to go ahead and write from .env import load_.env, and we'll initialize this for our environment variable. Okay. Now, along with this, what we are basically going to do is that quickly os.environ. Okay, we are just going to go ahead and import all the libraries that we require, like OpenAI API key, like os.getenv, So whatever libraries I want, I can basically go ahead and use this. Okay. Uh, you can also do it for Grok. You can do it for, you know, Tavily, wherever you want, right? So this will be Grok. This will also be Grok, and this will be your Tavily. Let's see, Tavily. Perfect, right? So all the environment variables has been done, right? Now, first of all, before we use Tavily, I really want to load our Tavily client so that we can or we can integrate that tool with our deep agent, right? So for that, what we are basically going to do is that I'll just go ahead and import from Tavily, import Tavily client, and here we are going to go ahead and initialize over here with the API key. Even though I've set it up, here you can write os.getEnv, and here we are going to go ahead and use my Tavily underscore API key. Okay. How to get this Tavily underscore API key? It's very simple. Just go over here, go to the browser, search for Tavily. So Tavily, if you don't know, guys, it provides you like an internet search. It's a real-time internet search. You can just go ahead and log in. Once you log in, let's say I'll continue with Google. Once you log in over here, so here you can see that first of all, you'll be getting the key, right? You can just copy this and you can use it. So this will basically be my Tavily client. Okay, Tavily underscore client. Once you have this, we will use this client in a tool. Okay, in a tool we will specifically use it, and this tool will be using this. So that tool that uses Tavily client, it's basically an internet search tool, right? So here I will go ahead and create a definition which is called as web search. Definition web search. Here I will give my first parameter as query str, which will be a string type. Let's say the max number of results is equal to a colon int is equal to 5. Let's say I want a maximum results of 5. I can also give topic as a parameter because I'm going to use that topic over here, and we'll be using literal. For this literal, I'll just go ahead and import from typing import literal. Okay, from typing import literal. Here is my literal over here. We have imported it. Let's see whether this will get imported or not. Yeah, so perfect. So this topic will be nothing but it will be a literal, and literal over here we can give a list of values. Let's say I want sports news, and I want news, I want finance, some of the categories that we are specifically using. Okay, and by default, I can just say that hey, topic will be by default sports news, or I can also say general. Okay, something like this. So in short, what we have done is that this all parameters is basically required by the Tavily client. So that's the reason we are hard coding over here with all the necessary options. Okay, and then finally I will also go ahead and say one more parameter, which is include raw content, which will be equal to boolean value, which is nothing but false. Okay, so these are all my parameters for the web search. And remember, these all parameters are required by the Tavily client. So that's the reason we are mentioning over here. Okay. Now I'm going to basically run a web search. Okay. Run a web search. So here are all the parameters that we have mentioned. Let me write it in this way so that you should be able to see the parameters in a better way. So 3 parameters are there inside this web search. Okay. Okay, perfect. Now, what we are basically going to do, we are going to just use the return Tavily client dot search with all these parameters that we have given. One is query. Okay. Then I'm also going to go ahead and give the max results. Spelling is wrong. Max results. Okay. max results. Then the third parameter that we are going to basically have is include raw content, and then we can also give the topic. Okay, so all the parameters is basically given over here. And remember, sometimes you have to make sure that please go ahead and see this Tably client, because there will be a set of parameters that will be specifically used, right? And that parameter should be in a same order, right? So here, if you see, this is the parameter for max results over here. This is for the include raw content is equal to this one, and this is finally for topic. Okay, sometime if the order is changed, you may not get the output properly. Okay, so this is done. Here you can see that I've actually given all these things, and finally we do a web search. Okay, so here you can see that this is my web search functionality, and this is basically returning just a query that we have actually done in the internet with the help of Tably client. Okay, now these are my tools that we are going to use. So this specifically we are going to use as a tools, and this tool is nothing but for the internet search. Now you may be thinking, Krish, how did I decide the parameters and all? It's very simple. Whatever Tably client actually requires, I saw the documentation page, I understood, okay, these are the parameters that is required. I can give all how many number of literals I want. Okay, literals basically means like what all categories of news I specifically want from that internet search, something like that. Okay, so I'll be executing this. Now the next step is basically to create a deep agent. Okay, now to create a deep agent, it is very simple, very simple. First of all, we go ahead and start with a prompt. Okay, we go ahead and start with a prompt. Now this prompt can be a simple prompt, it can be a complex prompt, right? And the next thing is that we go ahead and define our agent. Now for defining an agent, we need to import, like how do we create an agent? See, in Langchain, we have something like this, from langchain.agents import create or import. In Langchain agents also, I think we have create agent, right? Now, when we are using this create agent, this is a agent wherein you have an LLM, you have a option to integrate with the tool, right? This is how we basically create a agent using Langchain. But whenever we want to create a deep agent, for that, we will be importing from deep agents, import create deep agent. Okay, so here we use create deep agent. Okay, this is what we basically use in this scenario. Okay, now this create deep agents requires some of the parameter. Now what are parameter it requires? First of all, it requires something called as tools. Now tools we have actually created. What is the tool that we want? It is nothing but web search, right? That is a functionality. Second is system prompt. We specify some kind of system prompt. Now let's say that I'll say, hey, act as a researcher. Okay, act as a researcher. And here I also have one more parameter, which is basically called as model. Okay, now why do we basically require model over here, right? Model is nothing but, if you see with respect to create deep agent, right, here we need to provide a model. See, model is equal to string. Now which model we are basically going to use, right? What model you are going to use, whether you want to use OpenAI, whether you want to use Grok. So let's say that I go ahead and create one thing over here. I'll say, okay, I've imported Grok API key. Now with respect to the Grok API key, how do I load the model? So I can go ahead and write from Langchain dot chat model, right? I can basically go ahead and write Langchain dot chat models import init chat model, right? Now init chat model, I will just go ahead and initialize it over here, right? So here I can basically specify Grok model, whichever Grok model I want to use it, because I've already imported it, and the model name, right? So for importing that also, it is a very simple task. It's not a very complicated task, because we have learned that many number of times, right? How to import things, how to get the Grok API keys, and everything has been mentioned or explained it in a very clear manner beforehand whenever we discussed about the Langchain module also. Right, in the Langchain module, we saw that how to basically go ahead and integrate different types of model also, right? So let's say that this is my model over here, And here I've written grok quen 32 billion, right? So this is basically my model. And the same model, okay, so here spelling mistake is there, no worries. So here I will just go ahead and execute it. So this is my model, right? And here I'm going to use the same model over here, right? So once I do this, I think I should be able to execute it. So let's see whether we'll get any error. So this becomes my deep agent. And we'll also display this deep agent, how it looks like. See, how to create this model, you know, various ways. You can use init chat model, you can specify OpenAI, you can specify Google Gemini models, or you can also use chat grok, you can use chat OpenAI, you can use chat Google Gen AI, anyone, right? And then you can specify over here. Now I will just go ahead and create my deep agent. Let's see what we will be getting. Okay. This will take some time to create this. So it is giving me an error saying that a keyword argument models. Did you mean model? So fine, I'll give model. Now this kind of errors you will be seeing. Now see, what is the differences between a normal agent, right? You know how to create a normal agent. So in order to create a basic agent, how do we import it? So I'll write from Langchain dot agents import create agent, right? So if you remember, simple agent, if I use create agent over here, and if I give the model as model is equal to model, right? And let's say the tools, or let's just print this, okay? So this is my simple agent. Now in the case of simple agent, you can see that, okay, right now I did not add any tools. So let's say if I go ahead and add tools, tool is equal to web search. So here you can see, okay, did you mean tools? Okay, yeah, I have to say tools. Now see, now this was how a basic AI agent looks like. And this is how a deep agent looks like. Okay, now what is the difference? See, almost everything is same, right? Here also you have a model, you have integrated with tools, right? Whenever we talk about deep agents, right? Here we also have some of the middlewares attached, right? And if you have seen my Langchain module, right, you should understand what middleware is all about, right? In the middleware, you have hooks, right? You have hooks over here. You can see there's a part to tool calls hook. There is a summarization tool call hook. And after the model, there is a to-do list. So automatically to-do list is basically getting created. This to-do list is basically used for by the deep agents to track how the execution is basically going on whenever a task is assigned to the entire deep agent, right? When the task is assigned, automatically task is divided into subtask, and every of the tasks needs to be tracked, and that is possible by the to-do list. And when the conversation is continuously going on, their summarization will automatically happen, right? And if you remember in the Langchain module, I've discussed all these things like about the middleware. It is just like a kind of a hook which you can integrate in between on a specific workflow. So this is the basic difference over here, right? Now, whenever I use this deep agent and I try to execute anything, okay, how do I execute it? So what I will do, I will take this same deep agent and I'll say result is equal to, and I'll use agent dot invoke. So let's say that I will use the same agent. So I'll use deep agent dot invoke and I will go ahead and execute it. So how do we go ahead and execute it? So here I'll give my messages key, okay. And in the messages, the first thing that I really need to specify is nothing but role. So I'll go ahead and write role colon, role colon user, okay, role colon user, and then I will be specify content colon, let's say the content will be what is LangGraph. Okay, now when I'm asking this question, understand, here you should know that how deep agent will be executing this. Okay, so when this question goes over here, right, it goes over here, it sees whether we need to make a part tool call or not. Now I'm asking what is LangGraph. Okay, I'm asking what is LangGraph. So it will, what it will do, it will go ahead and do a quick internet search. Okay, or I'll just go ahead and ask what is deep agent. So finally, if when I execute this, what is LangGraph or what is deep agents? Let's say I'll change my question, right? Now see how this result will basically get displayed. So internally, deep agent is just going to follow this entire workflow, right? And wherever it requires this specific hook, that will be used, like summarization, like to-do list, right? So as soon as the input goes over here, the model is again going to make a to-do list, like how to resolve this particular question. It will divide that into subtask, and internally, it is also going to hit the tool. This tool is nothing but the internet search tool. When this tool goes back over here with respect to the context, it is also going to do the summarization. So here, I think after some time, you are definitely going to get the output. And I will also show you with the help of streaming also how we can go ahead and do the same thing. Okay, because we also need to go ahead and apply the streaming. Because right now, deep agent usually take a lot of time with doing the lot of research, finding out how many different types of outputs, like proper research if it is doing the internet research itself. So here you can see that deep agent is an end-to-end deep learning project. So here you can see it has also created files, right? So this kind of files that you will be able to see, right? So let's do one thing. Okay, so I will just go ahead and display the results, messages. So this is the real output, uh, -1 dot content. Okay, so let's see. So this is the output that you will be able to see over here. Okay, deep agent is an end-to-end deep reasoning agent introduced by so and so, and this is your enter output with all the details that is basically coming from the internet search. Okay, now along with this, if you want to get more information, I will also go ahead and write result of files. And let's see this files. Okay, so here you can see large tool results, content, query department, follow-up questions, all this information, results, URL. So these are some more additional information that you'll be seeing, title, deep agent, all this information, right? So it is also getting this specific information over here, right? And these are some of the files it may have created in some format, so that it will be also able to preserve the context, because it is doing this kind of summarization also. And sometimes, if the context size is very huge, it will also make sure to probably internally create some kind of content in some hard disk file, right? Like it can be a txt file, it can be some different kind of file. So that file information is basically created over here. You can see it has created, it has been modified at this specific location and this particular time. Okay, so everything is basically done, and this is how a simple deep agent actually work. Okay, here you get a clear idea like what a deep agent is all about. Here you can create any number of tools. We have also seen that how a simple agent is different from a deep agent. In deep agent, automatically there are a lot of middleware hooks that has got applied, whereas in a simple agent there are just modules, like there are just nodes, there are graphs, there are edges, which are communicating with each other. Yes, you can also go ahead and customize this simple agent with multiple middlewares, and you can add those kind of hooks. Okay, but this gives you a clear idea about like how a deep agent basically works. So guys, I hope you have understood the initial part of building deep agents, but there's still many topics left. And I don't want to make this video much more longer. So this was the part one. Now in the part two, we will try to do some customization in our deep agents, wherein we will be using model, system prompt, tools, and then there are also some more features with respect to backend, subagents, and interrupts. So we will try to cover all this specific topic in the part two. But I hope from the part one, you have clearly understood how to work or how to build a basic deep agent, wherein you have tools, right? Similarly, you can develop any number of tools. You can integrate with this specific deep agent, but understand at the end of the day, when you're using this library, it's more like you're building something that internally does a lot of steps for completing the entire task, right? So yes, this was it from my side. I will see you all in the next section, wherein we will be discussing about customizing deep agents. Then we'll understand about backend, subagents, and many more.